Welcome to Inside Scoop Live, the podcast where indie authors get personal, sharing insights about their books, their writing journeys, and their passions. I'm your host, Sherry Hoyt, and I invite you to join me for engaging conversations with both debut indie authors and seasoned veterans. Whether you're looking for your next great read or a bit of inspiration, you've come to the right place. Let's get started. Hi, everyone. Elaine Ricker Kelly is here today to talk about her latest novel, Finding Her Voice. It's a story of two women daring to raise their voices in a world that wants them silent as they stand up for their faith, their beliefs, and their right to be heard. Before we get started, here's the inside scoop on the author. Elaine Ricker Kelly is an award-winning author writing about women in the Bible and the early church. As a mother of 3 daughters, Elaine knew the harm of being considered secondary. She thought fiction would help others to see how Jesus equipped women as disciples and empowered women to speak and lead. Her research-based approach and empathetic tone were developed during 30 years as a financial advisor. Since Jesus engaged women as financial advisors, Kelly felt betrayed as a Christian when she saw the church speaking against women leaders, and she felt it was important to show how the Bible empowers women and endorses equality for all. She hopes to bring healing and hope to those sidelined or silenced by the church by writing blogs on biblical equality, church history, and affirming LGBTQ+ people. She and her husband live near Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, and worship in the mainline Protestant Christian tradition. They have 3 adult daughters and enjoy hiking, nature, tennis, pickleball, music, history, and travel. And you can learn more about Elaine Ricker Kelly and her work at elainekelly.ca. Well, hi, Elaine. Welcome to Inside Scoop Live.
Hi, Sherry. Thanks very much for having me.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to learning more about you and your book, of course. To get us started, why don't you give us an overview of what Finding Her Voice is about? And then perhaps you could share what inspired you to tell the story of early female apostles.
Well, that's just it. It is a story of early female apostles. And I guess some people don't realize that there were women who were apostles and evangelists who went traveling around talking about Jesus in the first century. And so I just wanted to put a spotlight on all the women who were speakers and leaders and preachers at that time. And Junia is one who's in the Bible. And so this is a bit of a backstory on her fictional first mission journey. And the other main character is Susanna, who's mentioned as a disciple and patron of Jesus. But later, I imagine that she marries Philip the evangelist, whose wife is never mentioned in the book of Acts.
As the third book in your trilogy, From Broken to Bold, how does this final installment bring the series full circle?
So, in my first novel, I show the women who were following Jesus. There were many disciples and patrons, women who followed Jesus to take care of his needs. I feature Mary of Clopas, whom I call Mara, and she is overcoming abuse or trauma. And so it's a story of her personal character development where she learns to have some self esteem and self confidence. And she also comes to accept her son's orientation. And so that comes through in the third novel, where she has taught her daughter how to use her voice. And then the other main character in the first novel is Joanna, the disciple and patron of Jesus. And I go with the tradition that Joanna is actually the same person as Junia. It's just the Hebrew and the Roman version of her name. And Junia is mentioned as an outstanding apostle in the book of Romans.
Tell us a little more about Junia and Susanna, because they both sound like extraordinary women. What do you admire most about their strength and conviction?
So with both of my characters, I wanted to make them strong female characters. They face difficulty, they face opposition. The world wants them to be silent. Early male apostles don't really understand how come Jesus equipped these women to be speakers. They don't really understand how a woman could be teaching or leading. So it takes some time for the early church to accept that that's what Jesus taught. And Peter is actually one of the first who says, no, anybody can be filled with the Spirit. And his wife travels with him as an apostle. And so what's special to me about Junia and Susanna is that they face opposition. They're told to be silent. It would be easy for them to be silent, but they try to find various ways to make their voices heard and to deliver the message that God has given them to deliver.
It's so funny. Like now I feel like women, we take our voices for granted, but it was a totally different world. So it's interesting to look back historically on.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if other people remember when women were only supposed to be in the newspaper at birth, marriage, and death. So they weren't supposed to have a public profile.
Oh,
And
wow.
so it's not that long ago that women were to be silent. Even as children, you're seen and not heard. And even this week, I heard people advocating against women having the vote, which is one way of having a voice because they figured the husband or the father could have that vote for the household and the women didn't need to speak. I think it's very relevant today.
It is very relevant today. And it's scary, this trend that seems to be happening about going backwards.
Yeah, so I was wondering about that. I worked as a financial advisor, professional financial investment and insurance advisor for 30 years. I didn't notice that this trend was going backwards in terms of feminism or women's equality. And then I started to peel back, why is this happening? And then I felt this sense of betrayal because I'm a Christian and I discovered that it's coming from Christianity. The movement against women's equality is actually stemming from my own religion.
Mm,
I felt a sense of betrayal because that's not the Christianity that I knew or grew up with. All I want to say is that if you are a Christian, the Bible does speak for women and men to have equality in serving God.
right.